Okay, so this is our first Ryzen 5 1600 sample I've got running here on the test bench. We've got it finally stable. We're running 2 encodes of handbrake right there. Both those are 4K encodes. Been playing around with it. Puts a little more stress on it. There's Heaven running in the background. And there, of course, is Blender. Let's run a real quick one on that. There you go. You see we're still rendering across all 12 cores, or threads rather. 6 cores, 12 threads. To get it to this stability, we had to go a little bit higher than I wanted to on VCore. It's running 1.43 to 1.46 there at 4 gigahertz. And this is with a 2933 memory. Finally, our temperature level's off around 68 to 70 C. During the handbrake encodes, it'll run back up to like 69.5. So these are the settings we used for the Ryzen 5 1600 sample 1 that we just showed you. So these are the only UEFI changes that we made. Updated the multiplier to 40. RAM speed 2933, core voltage to manual, set to 1.45, SoC voltage to manual, set to 1.2, and we set the DRAM voltage to 1.4. These sticks are actually spec'd for 1.35, but we found that a little extra bump doesn't hurt at all. And the CPU load line calibration set to level 5. And as always on these Asus boards, set the CPU fan speed to NOR if you're not using it. Okay guys, we're back here with the Ryzen 5 1600. This is sample number 2 that we bought online. This one's obviously underwater. And it's still on our Asus Crosshair 6 Hero motherboard. There's some notes I've been playing with as we're doing this. So this is the sample number 2. This is it running stable with, again, 2 encodes of handbrake 4K running. Both those are almost finished. We also have Heaven running. You can see our core temp is coming in about 73 degrees. System has been up for 1 hour and 22 minutes. There's our specs. It's at 4 gigs, 2933 memory. And if you want to see, still very stable. We can run Blender on top of that. So this was a very good result. Pretty much easily did 4 gigahertz. This one's still running with load line calibration 5 set, so we're seeing actual core voltage temperatures of 1.43 to 1.46 right there. I'm not going to suggest to you that we could not go lower with this. I use the same settings that I used on the last one, so we could. This one felt a little more stable in playing with it, and I think we could probably bring down the core voltage some. But instead of that, we're going to get on to overclocking the Ryzen 5 1400 CPUs next. So these are our Ryzen 5 1400 CPUs. We got 2 of these as well, like we did with the 1600s. Wanted to show you real quick, unbox one of these before we move forward in testing. And again, you're not going to find a lot of difference here. Our processor, this one happens to be made in China. So here's our cooler. Again, packaging looks just the same as the rest. So there's our cooler. Already put my finger in the paste. Be careful not to do that. Okay, so I misspoke last time when we were talking about this. I wanted to cover this again. This is the cooler that comes with the 1400. This is called the Wraith Stealth. You'll see the difference there between the Wraith Spire and the Wraith Spire LED. So you see the difference in the length of the extruded heatsink. This one's rated at 65 watts. The Wraith Stealth is rated at 65 watts. The Wraith Spire is rated at 95 watts. And while we did not show it to you because it's still in the box in the sample, this is the original Wraith cooler, which is now being referred to as the Wraith Max. And I do believe it has a different fan on it now. Copper base, thin fin, and it is rated for 125 watts. So I wanted to clear that up while we had it out on the table. Anyway, now we're going to get on to overclocking the 1400 and see what we get there. All right, we're back here with the Ryzen 5. Again, this is our first 1400 model CPU, underwater of course. I fought with this one for a long time. I was really shooting for the 4 gigahertz clock on this, but even after, well, you can see there, after how many different attempts and BIOS tweaks, 24 different, going through the different BIOS tweaks, I couldn't get it, I could not get it stable at 4, even close. It's running at 3.9 right now. Does have a relatively low V-core. You can see it's running at 1.352. It does have a 2933 clock. We're running 2 4K encodes, Heaven again, and there you go if you want to see Blender run. And she's all loaded up. In this particular time, she's been up for an hour and 10 minutes. And this is my third run through with this one. I'll let this run another couple hours to make sure. The last time it bailed out, it broke on me at about 2 hours at 3.9, and I had to go back and make one little tweak. And that one little tweak was, so it's running at a set 1.4 in the voltage with the 1.2 SoC, 1.4 VDIM, and it's running with load line calibration set to 2. And this one is running nice and cool. 3.9 gigahertz, 55 C on the core. So here in a couple hours, I'm going to get the next one on the test bench and we'll see what she does. Hey guys, we're back here with our number 4 sample of the Ryzen 5. This is number 2 of the 1400 SKU. Again, we're running on the Asus Crosshair 6 motherboard. Corsair RAM, underwater of course, like the rest. I really felt like we were going to be able to hit the 4 gigahertz mark with this one, but we just did not quite make it. It'd run for about 20 minutes at 4 gigs, and then it'd finally error out. So as you see there, our core voltage is a little bit higher this time than last, actually a lot higher. So you can see that those last 100 megahertz or so can be kind of costly. This one's running at 3.97. It does have a 2933 memory bus. And as you can see, we're still running 2 4K encodes. We have Heaven running. We're fully loaded across 4 cores, 8 threads. There is Ryzen Blender. You want to see it run on top of that. It'll still render out fine. You'll notice our core temperature has gone up a pretty good bit. Under Blender, it runs a little bit lower, so it should go up to around 68, maybe 70 under this. Took a little bit of tweaking, but not as much as last time on the number 1 sample. So I'm going to cut away here and I'm going to show you exactly what UEFI changes we made to get this stable. Okay, so this is our BIOS settings for the 1400 Ryzen 5 number 2 sample that we used. So you can see there we used a 39.75 core multiplier, memory frequencies at 2933, set manual core voltage at 1.45, CPU SoC voltage to manual at 1.2, The DRAM voltage we kicked up a little bit. Spec on it's 1.35. I've had better luck with it at 1.4. Our CPU load line calibration set to level 5. And of course on these Asus boards, if you don't have a fan plugged into the CPU fan header, you have to push that to ignore. So we'll come back and we'll summarize on this a bit and talk about what we got out of our 4 Ryzen 5 retail samples. Okay, so let's get a summary of what we've learned here. If you've cut ahead the video, what we're looking at today is the Ryzen 5 CPU that will be released next week by AMD. There are 2 different models. One's a 6-core 12-thread, one is a 4-core 8-thread. They come in like this: 1400, 1500X, 1600, 1600X, 169, 189, 219, 249. The models that we have here today are the least expensive, the $169 and the $219. Both the models that we have here, the 1400 and the 1600, are the non-X SKUs. The 1400 is 4 cores, 8 threads. The 1600 is 6-core, 12 threads. Base clocks in those are about the same, 3.2 base with 3.4 gigahertz on the 1400 and 3.6 gigahertz on the 1600. Okay, so let's take a look at what we have here. So let's start with the 1400s. Let me show you what we got, and I'm gonna bring in here and we'll discuss this some. So this is our 1400 first sample we had. It ran good at 3.9 gigahertz. The stability testing that we did show was with 2933. I did go back and test all these parts with 32 megahertz, 3200 megahertz RAM. All of these ran fine. I did not put the hours and hours of stability testing into it, but I hadn't seen, it seems like if the RAM works, and it's not that big a deal. So at this one we did 3.9, 3200, 1.4 with LLC2 load line calibration for the CPU set at level 2 on the Crosshair 6 motherboard. And it actually will adjust down some in terms of voltage. So we saw it running under load, as you saw in the earlier stress testing, where it was running fine at 1.35. And with that you get a lot lower core temperature. So this one was loading out right around 57 C according to AMD Master. So if you look compared to this one, this was our second test. So we did a good bit better with this one, 3.975. I tried for hours and hours and hours to get it stable at 4.0 gig, and it just was not happening. This 1.45 V-core set in the UEFI, this one with load line calibration set to 5, which gets a little more aggressive with the variable V-core rates under load. And so you can see there where our running temperature was 10 C higher, which is actually a pretty good bit. So what's interesting about this is, depending on your system and where you want it to be, you can give up a simple 100 megahertz and gain a tremendous amount of running the system a lot cooler. So once you get past 3.8 on these processors, they just the voltage uses and heat usage, or heat emitted, just gets exponential with them. So they get very hot very quickly. So that's where we're at with those two. These other two that we purchased online were almost identical in how they reacted. This is our number one. This is our number one model here. 4 gigahertz, 3200 megahertz, 1.45, LLC5 again. It ran about 70 C. This is our number 2 sample, 4 gigahertz, 3200 megahertz, 1.45 volt V-core, LLC5. It ran a few degrees hotter than our other one. So I think I was extremely happy with the 1600s. Not that I wasn't happy with the 1400s, but the 1600s were just fairly easy. And we did show you all the BIOS settings in that as well. If you want to take a screenshot, there's a little quick follow-up on exactly what we got. Really isn't hard to follow. One thing I did want to talk about again was the one thing that we're finding right now on these motherboards is the RAM can just be awfully funky. And a lot of this goes back to AMD's microcode, and there's a lot of bugs being ironed out right now. So you should expect to find a lot of BIOS updates, and I would absolutely use those if you're looking to push the system a little bit further. This is a Corsair Vengeance LPX RAM that we're using. We use 2 sticks. These are single rank DIMMs. Let me show you the part number on here. So this stick is rated at 4,000 megahertz. So this is in no way a slouchy stick of RAM. This is an expensive stick of RAM. From what I have experienced so far, and this could change certainly, is the fact that every stick of RAM I've been able to actually get to work has worked at its rated value. So say if it was at 3,200 megahertz, which there's a bunch that are in there somewhere. If it was at 3,200 megahertz, it's worked at 3,200 megahertz. This is going to be more specific, I think, to your motherboard much rather than your processor. Because the one thing that really stands out on these processors that I can surely say is the integrated memory controller on these things is tremendously robust. In any of the overclocking situations I've had with these 4 or the previous other 4 I've had, or 7, I don't know, I've bought enough of them now that I can't remember. I've never found an overclocking situation, and I've done this with almost all of them, where I'd back the memory controller clock down to 2133 and I would have better CPU core overclocking. So it seems to be if the RAM works, and that's just the way it is. We've had to make small adjustments to the SoC, which is the North Bridge voltage, and that's been about it. I've also run my RAM plus, knocked it over a tenth from, I guess, this is rated at 1.35. I've always found that knocking it up 5/10 Corsair RAM just seems to be more stable. It's kind of the way it works out for me. Obviously your experience may be different than that, but the integrated memory controllers in these chips is just tremendously robust, and can't say anything bad about it at all. I have seen the memory clocks over 3200. There's some issues right now, and I don't know if the motherboard makers will be able to get around them with the microcode and get it to run faster, but that's where we are right now. When it comes to going back and looking at the value on these, and this is specific to overclocking today, I have run all the benchmarks on these, and I will say this, much like we saw with the 1700 and 1700X and the 1800X, they're all the same CPUs. It's just what it comes down to, right? Except for obviously if you run them at stock clocks and they're different, but once you get to overclocking them, they're all the same CPUs. I think we're going to see the same exact thing between the 1500X, or the 1600X and the 1600, and the 1400 and the 1500X. These two are the same CPUs. These two are the same CPUs. That 1600X, I do not think it's going to give you any better overclocking abilities than you're going to get with the non-X version. And of course, AMD has left all the multipliers unlocked on these, so you can do whatever you want to with them, which is great for us. Going back and looking at the benchmarks, depending on your usage, that 1600 for $219. If I was building a budget system today for AMD and I was looking to save every penny, I really think that the 1600 is going to be the sweet spot. That way you've still got 6 cores going ahead. You've got really good multitasking capabilities on the CPU, and there are some games that do take advantage of that right now. So that's where I'd go with that. That said, we did finally get all of our test systems over to Brent. So what we're going to be doing here, probably in 2 weeks, maybe 3, depending how the test works out, is we've got a 2600K system, a Ryzen system at 4 gig, and a 7700K system at 5 gig. The 2600K is at 4 gig. And what we're going to do is run all 3 of those systems apples to apples through at least 180 game run-throughs is what the math came out to be. Once we went through using RX 480, RX 480 Crossfire, 1060, 1080, and 1080 Ti, ranging from 1080p, 1440p to 4K gaming. And so I really think that'll paint a picture of where Ryzen is at as an overall gaming CPU for everybody. Okay, so that all said, the Ryzen CPUs, the Ryzen 5s are looking as robust clockwise as the Ryzen 7. These CPUs, once they get to 4 gig, they get to 3.9 to 4.1, they just hit a wall and they're done. They're process limited. I do not see them going any better than that. And also let me say that we ran all of ours underwater here. I think, and this is, I have not had time to go back and do air testing on all these CPUs, but from what I've seen in the past, a very good air cooler like the Thermalright True Spirit 140 or the Noctua coolers with decent fans on them, I haven't seen it make more than 100 megahertz difference in overclocking. The Spire cooler that comes with the kit, the thicker one, it's going to limit you. Those things get hot, and they're just that cooler's just not meant for overclocking. Okay, so we're going to preview this once again. I'm not going to show you this. We're going to do the give you a preview of the, everybody wondering what was in the kit, AMD Ryzen 5 Reviewers Kit Hard OCP TV preview for the giveaway. We're going to do this next week. What's in the kit? Ryzen 5 1600X, Ryzen 5 1500X, MicroStar International B350 Tomahawk motherboard, Wraith Max CPU cooler, AMD Wraith Spire CPU cooler, and 16 gigabytes of 3200 DDR4 memory to go with it. We will kick that off next Monday morning, and we'll probably award the winner of that next Wednesday or Thursday, seeing how that goes. So if you got any questions, you can hit me up at in the Hard Forum, hardforum.com, or you can hit me up in the comments below on the video.